Fake outrage, line one. Fake outrage, line one. You know, it is not very often that I get legitimately aggravated about something I see in the mainstream media. This is one of those rare cases. I am not sure if the wanker spankers know this, but Mina Kimes does not need an excuse to play the role of the ultimate victim. She is perfectly capable of fabricating her own stories, creating her own fairy tales where she is the defenseless damsel in distress fighting through this world of toxic masculinity. With this particular story I'm about to share with you guys, pick your woke boner word. This is probably why the fake outrage is so severe. The story covers all of the myths that cause woke boners to become the little stiffy. Mythical racism, mythical misogyny, mythical sexism. Boston radio host Chris Curtis, he has been charged with all three. One little joke, one innocuous comment, and this dude has hit the hat trick in violations of the woke commandments. Now, just in case you missed the memo, you are not allowed to make jokes about birthing persons who belong to a marginalized group, even if the joke is complimentary in nature. Yeah. Compliments will now get you sentenced to the woke dungeon, where you will share a cell with Max Kellerman, who hasn't seen sunlight in, 2 years now? Chris Curtis, he is a host and producer on WEEI in Boston. Now, just to give you some context here, Boston is one of the most hated and targeted cities of woke United Methodists. According to the Deacons, Boston is a city plagued by mythical racism. Now, we never hear about mythical racism in Chicago or Washington, D.C., New Orleans, but we often hear about mythical racism in Boston. Why? Because the population consists of evil white men. Yesterday morning on WEEI, they were discussing the top 5 nips in Boston. KC, what the hell is a nip? Dude, I had no idea. I thought a nip was the part of a woman's body that instilled fear in the majority of woke men. It's kind of similar to success. Bomani Jones, he sees either one, he hauls ass in the opposite direction. Speaking of Bomani Jones, probably going to give you an update on the Bobo later this afternoon because you are not going to believe what the reigning champ of huge embarrassing failures has said now. But anyway, for the context of this conversation on WEEI, the nips they were talking about were the miniature liquor bottles that you see in liquor stores. You know the bottles I'm talking about, the small bottles that broke alcoholics buy because they can't afford the fifth. For some unknown reason, the city of Boston, they are considering banning the sale of these small bottles. I can't even begin to fathom how that makes sense, but this is the government we're talking about. People in positions of authority who have never run a business telling successful business owners how to run theirs. Apparently, though, referring to mini liquor bottles as nips is not the only use of the word. Unbeknownst to me, there are numerous contexts, multiple uses for this word, because it's also considered to be a slur used against people of Japanese descent. Okay, I mean, I have never heard of that before, but that doesn't mean it's not true, but what the hell? You learn something new every day. Listen to the conversation that took place yesterday on WEEI. Then I'm going to get into the complete overreaction from the mainstream media. Watch for yourself.
It begs the question, top 5 nips.
Oh, yes. That's a great one.
Because Dr. McGillicuddy's, I think, is number 1 or 2. Screwball also up there.
I'd probably go Mina Kimes.
And Fireball.
Fireball.
Before we get into this, I am not here to defend Chris Curtis or what he said. I have never heard of this word used in this context before. I don't know if it's offensive to Japanese people or not. I am here to focus on the fake outrage and the hypocrisy in the media because they seem to pick and choose when they want to be outraged over racism. When looking at situations like this, my process completely different than the process of the mainstream media. I don't look at things with the intention of being outraged. I don't look at something like this trying to find a way to be offended. I look at intent. Was it the intent of Chris Curtis to disparage Mina Kimes? Was he trying to be disrespectful? Was he intending to be racist? The way I see it, the answer is no, no, and no. They were talking about the best liquors. He took the term into a different direction and said Mina Kimes was the best. Now, you can argue that it was distasteful. You can argue that it was a bad choice of words, but I think he was trying to compliment her. I don't think there was any malicious intent behind it. According to the mainstream media, this is a direct violation of the woke commandments. Headline at USA Today: racial slur used against Mina Kimes puts Boston racism in spotlight. Imagine my surprise when I discovered the shitfuck responsible for writing this garbage. Just take a wild, wild guess. The Star Trek virgin himself, Mike Freeman. It's been a little while since we've talked about Mike Freeman here on the channel. He has been super busy on the Death Star trying to find new ways to seduce C-3PO. He's tried roleplay, he's dressed up in his sexiest stormtrooper attire, but he just can't get that damn robot to stroke his lightsaber. According to Mike Freeman, not only is Chris Curtis guilty of mythical racism, the entire city of Boston is guilty. First of all, I am incredibly confused here. If I'm understanding this correctly, this slur is offensive to Japanese people. Last I checked, Mina Kimes was born in Omaha, Nebraska. Not Osaka, Japan. Omaha, Nebraska. Last I checked, Mina Kimes is of Korean descent. I believe her mother was born in Korea. So, someone please explain to me why this would be offensive to Mina Kimes. That would be like someone using a slur offensive to people from Romania, using it against me, and I pretend to be offended. I pretend to be outraged. Second, how can Mike Freeman take questionable comments from one dude and label an entire city racist? Chris Curtis trying to defend himself by claiming that he meant to say Mila Kunis instead of Mina Kimes. Obviously, he does not understand how this works. When deacons at Woke United Methodist accuse you of mythical racism, there is no defense. It's best to just own what you said and tell them to fuck off. This article by Mike Freeman, it is woke comedy at its finest. This dude thinks that he is a serious journalist. He has no idea. He doesn't realize that us normal people, we are laughing at him, not with him. Think about how deep you have to go in your dark soul to pull out this racism against Mina Kimes. Mina Kimes is not even Japanese. Chris Curtis couldn't even get his racism correct. Then why are you so outraged? If the racism doesn't apply here, why are we making Mina Kimes the victim? Mina Kimes, she added to the humor here by changing her Twitter profile to a picture of Mila Kunis. Oh, Mina, you are just so humorous. Instead of polluting the world with your horrific analysis of the NFL, you should join the woke comedy circuit. You could open up for Travis Noah on the Victim Tour. Mike Freeman claims this incident with Chris Curtis proves that the city of Boston will not let racism die. He calls mythical racism a fungus that is plaguing the city. That's an interesting choice of words because most of us normal people, we consider Mike Freeman a fungus who refuses to stop preaching the good word. Now, you are never going to believe who Mike Freeman blames for this. Me personally, I blame the mainstream media for once again blowing something completely out of proportion. When I first heard about this yesterday, I received a Twitter notification from Sarah Spain. She was expressing her fake outrage going into the full victimization of the defenseless Mina Kimes. Fun little fact, I actually got into a minor debate last weekend on Twitter with Sarah Spain. She was once again expressing her fake outrage. This time she was fake pissed off about some bill Ron DeSantis was passing in Florida, which banned public school officials from talking about female menstrual cycles with elementary school children. I quote tweeted Sarah Spain and asking, why school officials at this level would be concerned about this in the first place. I said, shouldn't this be an issue that parents and doctors handle themselves? Why should the school be held responsible for this? Sarah Spain, she replies back with endless what-if scenarios. I told her, I don't know of many third graders who are dealing with this problem, so why is this a big deal? She responds back with a link to an article from some woke media outlet that promotes propaganda. End of debate right there. I decided not to waste any more of my time arguing with the clueless. But anyway, rambled off topic for a second. You are never going to believe who Mike Freeman blamed for this situation in Boston. Just take a wild, wild guess. Did he blame the Catholic Church? No, that's a reliable guess though. Deacons at Woke United Methodist, they often blame other religions for their fake outrage. Did he blame Ron DeSantis, the praying mantis? No. You're getting closer though. Deacons often blame Ron DeSantis for just about anything. The weather is starting to warm up. Of course, that is his fault. Those damn diesel trucks in Florida, they always make the weather a bit warmer from April to September. But the Star Trek version, he blamed Donald Trump. Donald Trump? How in the hell could this possibly be Donald Trump's fault? It's the Trump effect, KC. He encouraged white supremacy. Oh, I see. Makes perfect sense. We couldn't have a story of mythical racism without ESPN getting involved. Initially, I thought WEEI in Boston was an affiliate of ESPN Radio. At least then, it would kind of make sense why ESPN would release a statement publicly. But WEEI, they are affiliated with CBS and Westwood One. No affiliation whatsoever with ESPN. I guess the wanker spankers in Bristol felt it was their duty to come to the defense of the ultimate victim, Mina Kimes. ESPN said in their statement, there is no place for these hateful, extremely offensive comments. I can't comment one way or another on the offensive part. I don't know enough about the word. Before yesterday, like I said, I had never heard it used in this context, but hateful? Hateful? You heard the clip yourself. Did that sound hateful to you? It sounded to me like he was being complimentary of Mina Kimes. Even though the wording was wrong, I think he was trying to say Mina Kimes was the best. I don't know why he would say that. Mina Kimes is far from the best at analyzing the NFL, but everyone has their own opinion. I thought this statement was interesting though, coming from ESPN. How many times on ESPN's own airwaves have we heard disparaging remarks about 70% of the American population? Wasn't it Kendrick Perkins just 2 weeks ago who offended Nikola Jokic and other white people by saying the NBA caters MVP voting to white players? Didn't he label the entirety of MVP voters with mythical racism? What about all the hateful comments from ESPN directed towards Kyrie Irving? All because Kyrie Irving refused to get poked by the Fauci. Or what about the time Jalen Rose called Kevin Love the token white guy? What about the time Jalen Rose accused Team USA of being afraid of sending an all-black team to the Olympics? What about the time Jalen Rose banned the use of Mount Rushmore? What about the time Jamel Hill accused Donald Trump voters of white supremacy? Elle Duncan, Malika Andrews. Do I need to keep going? JJ Redick works at ESPN, and he essentially accused them of stoking racial division. I don't want to hear shit from ESPN blasting someone else over hateful comments. That damn network is full of hate and division. Look, I am not defending what Chris Curtis said, but my thing is, how come we don't see this same level of outrage when similar remarks are made on ESPN? The message from the mainstream media seems to be, it is okay to disparage a certain segment of the population, but all other groups are off limits. I don't want anyone to be off limits. I don't think most people get offended by stupid remarks like this. Seriously, let's be real here. How many people were really offended by Chris Curtis? I'm not talking about the mutants in the mainstream media. I'm talking about normal people. How many normal people were offended? If I had to guess, I would say the number is close to 0. So why all the fake outrage? If you're going to be outraged about this, why aren't you pissed off with Kendrick Perkins? Where's all the outrage with Talbert Swan? That fake bishop, he says far, far worse things about white people 10, 15, 20 times a day on Twitter. Go look at his Twitter feed for yourself. It is nothing but hateful propaganda. Where is all the outrage? There is none, because outrage in the media is selective. I don't feel bad for Mina Kimes. I doubt she could sleep last night from all the excitement she was feeling about her latest opportunity to be the ultimate victim. But give me your thoughts. Mainstream media, once again, victimizing Mina Kimes, blowing something completely out of proportion. Were you offended by the remarks of Chris Curtis? Had you even heard of this term before? I don't think his intent was malicious. I think he was trying to be complimentary in a joking manner. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong. You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.